Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm saying hi from Shanghai, China. Hello, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me or see me okay. And very warm welcome. And we're back with the spring webinar series. Although it's a little bit hot here actually in Shanghai. I'm not sure how's the weather there in your place. Feel free to let me know whether it's still spring or it's already summer. So I am Super Huang from Macmillan Education, and I am the teacher trainer and academic consultant for Macmillan Education Asia, and I'm based in Shanghai right now. So feel free to let me know if you can put something in the chat. Yes, I can see somebody's already chatting there. It's already summer there in Vietnam. Yeah, of course, in Bangkok maybe as well, because it's always very hot, right, in Southeast Asia. But still, you probably have a little bit like temperature difference to differentiate from spring and summer. And the the theme for the spring webinar of this time is all about speaking, pronunciation, and communication. So stay tuned for the spring webinar. Hello from Thailand, Amy. Hi. And another Nestle from Thailand as well. Hello, hello, hi. Hope you're all having a good time over there. So let me just give you a little bit introduction about what we're doing right now and what's coming up next in the whole year in 2025. So again, we have a whole learning journey for you, and it is all tailored for teachers based in Asia. So this is the teacher growth journey for 2025, and we have got different types of training session and professional development events or tailored to teachers like you who are based in Asia. So we will have webinars like this. We will have lesson plan masterclass, like the session I'm going to do next Tuesday. So it's all about how to plan a lesson. And today we're going to focus on the topic of pronunciation in the speaking lessons. And also we will have debate sessions coming up soon in June as well. And also this year we have upgraded our ELT talk ELT into the voices in ELT management. We want to focus on more senior like professional development and to give you a lot of ideas how to build up like leadership in the ELT industry. So this is another session we will have in this spring webinar series as well. So please stay tuned, and you can follow us on Facebook or WeChat. If you are based in China, you can follow us on WeChat. For the rest of Asia, you can follow us on Facebook. We will be releasing all these exciting professional development like events and webinars through our official like channels on Facebook and WeChat. So please stay tuned. We will have a very good and a very rewarding journey going on in 2025 with you together. Yes, and for the sessions we have got this time from today to next Tuesday and the next Thursday, we have prepared 3 sessions. Dell will be giving you a session focusing on pronunciation strategies that your students will love, especially with considerations about Asian students pronunciation like issues. We will try to address that today. And for next Tuesday, I am going to focus on exam-based speaking practice because we have a lot of exam like expectations from parents and from students, especially for the speaking part. It's always very challenging, but also very like stressful for students as well. So some fun exam-based speaking practice for next Tuesday, and I will be there to guide you through the lesson plan. And for next Thursday, we will have the ELT Voices in ELT Management focus on the leadership development, and we will have a guest, a Kate as our guest speaker to come together with Dell to give you that talk. So please have a check of the QR code on the screen, or you can use the link Dolores has shared in the chat to get registered if you haven't. Okay, So that is what we have prepared for you this time. And of course, don't worry about the certificates. It will arrive in your email inbox very soon after the session, a few days after the session. And together you will find the webinar recording and also some teaching resources we prepared and packed together for you to develop and learn more after the session. So it will be an email from Macmillan Education Asia. So do please check out and be patient as well. Okay, so without further ado, let me invite you to the speaker of today, Dale. Hi, Dale.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody.
Good
How are you
afternoon.
today, Super? Are you well?
Yes, very well. How about you?
I'm doing great, thank you. Yeah, it's a very nice
Okay.
day in Thailand. A very nice early afternoon, or late afternoon, I should say. Nice fresh air, everything's good. Can't complain.
Great. So it's time to pronounce. So I'm very looking forward to your session. So I will just leave the stage to you. And please, if you have any questions for Dell, you can submit your questions in the Q&A part, but also feel free to chat in the chat box and we'll be there to respond as well. So the stage is yours. See you.
Thank you very much, Super. Thank you for the introduction and welcome, everybody. As always, thank you so much for giving us your time today and joining us in our first of the spring webinars. All about communication, as Super said, about speaking. I'm going to talk to you today about something that I've always enjoyed in my teaching practice, which is pronunciation activities. Just a little bit of, just to let you know, I've got two monitors here, so I might be looking up at the monitor above me rather than at you in the camera. But don't worry about that. And also, I might be looking at the chat. I'm going to have a chat box open, and I would love for you to give me your thoughts and ideas as we go through the session today as well. So please participate. All right, so let's get started. We're going to be here for about the next 50 minutes. There'll also be a Q&A at the end, but here's the agenda for today. We're going to look at three areas, the power of three. So why does pronunciation matter? What's the point of pronunciation? Why do we teach it? What's it good for? We're going to look at some activities that you can use immediately in your classrooms, and I'll have some takeaways for you as well. All the activities that I show you today, I put the instructions together on a PDF file, which I will give to you at the end. You have to stay till the end, though, if you want to receive the PDF. It's exclusive for people who are attending the session. And we will also have a Q&A as well at the end. If you have any questions, you can give them to me and Super, and we will do our best to answer them. And we also, I believe, are streaming on WeChat. So welcome to everybody who is streaming on WeChat. Thank you as well for joining us. So let's start off with a little bit of a poll, a little questionnaire for you to do. So I'm going to put some questions up. Let me find out where my questions are. Here we go. Oh, I need to move a few things around. Here we go. More and polls, and let's launch one. So you should be able to see there's a question here about how important do you believe teaching pronunciation is for your students overall? Now, there are 5 questions, and you can work through those questions, I believe. Yes, you're doing that now. That's great. So I'll give you just a couple of minutes just to fill in these, and then we'll have a look at the results together. So far, so good. We have a very important and somewhat important. Now, I would believe that most of you are going to, because you're here in a session on pronunciation, that you would automatically believe that pronunciation is important. So I don't expect to see any not berries, but it's okay if you do feel that way as well. Hopefully, if you do feel that way, I will be able to persuade you today why it is important or somewhat important. I'll give you a few more minutes. Second one, yeah, we're focusing on the kind of pronunciation teaching that you're doing. At the moment, we have nobody who doesn't focus on pronunciation, which is good to see. Then we look into confidence. Most people are feeling moderately confident or very confident, so that's good. So hopefully some of the activities you'll be able to implement immediately into your teaching, and then hopefully share some ideas as well. Biggest challenge, this is interesting for me, and as always, large class sizes comes up as being one of those. Hopefully the activities that I show you, you'll be able to do with any size of classroom. We've always got that in the back of our heads here at Macmillan. We do have a good understanding, I think, of our teachers' context and what they're dealing with. Lack of motivation is there as well sometimes, and lack of resources. And then pronunciation matters because, now I'll be interested to read those myself when I end this poll, which I'm going to do in 20 seconds. Ten more seconds, and then I'll answer it. We've got about 30 people answer, 33, 35. It's getting bigger now. Maybe I'll give you 10, maybe I'll give you another 10 seconds, and then we'll end the poll. All right, I'm going to close the poll right now. I'll share the results. So you should be able to see my results. Is that okay? Can you see them all? Yes, okay, lovely. Thank you for letting me know. So great, yeah, most people think that it is important. I expected this because you wouldn't be here if you didn't. I would believe that most people have an interest in pronunciation, in teaching pronunciation, and that's why you're here. Number two, what do you focus on the most? So individual sounds, words, stress, intonation, and then connected speech, linking all this. This is great to hear, great to see, I should say, that you're already focusing on these things. What I want to make sure is that you're focusing on the things that your students have problems with, rather than just teaching pronunciation from a book, for example. How confident do you feel? Most people feel confident. One person not so confident. So hopefully after today, you'll feel more confident. So moderately, we'll move into very. Very will just be amazingly confident. Not confident will be confident. And I'm not sure. Hopefully you can move into confident, a little bit confident. And then the biggest challenge, again, yeah, like a time, obviously time constraints. We've got a curriculum, a syllabus to get through, right? And usually that focuses on vocabulary, grammar, the skills. But I would argue that we need to put pronunciation, specific pronunciation practice into that, particularly when it comes to teaching exams, because 25% of most exams are speaking, and 25% of that is about pronunciation. So let's have a look and see if we can give you some simple ideas that you can maybe use as warmers or fillers or even coolers at the end of your lessons. And why does pronunciation matter? Let me see if I can pull that up. Impacts students' confidence to speak because it bridges the gap, helps students speak more clearly. This is great. I'm going to keep these. I'm going to keep these behind. And when we send you our email to thank you, I'll put some of these ideas into that email as well, so you can let your voices be heard as well. All right, let's keep going then. And I will want to talk now about why pronunciation does matter. So let me go back to my slide. And let me just check that you can see the screen. It now says, why does pronunciation matter? Can someone just type yes into the chat? Just so I know. Okay, thank you. I'll stick your thumb up. That's even better. Thank you so much. So why does pronunciation matter? So I asked you why it matters, and you gave me lots of nice ideas. And I'm going to argue now that pronunciation has an impact on a lot of aspects of our teaching. It's not just about speaking. It's about every skill that we teach. Let me just move that around. I want to, okay, don't worry, I'll do that later. So, has an impact on speaking? Of course it does. We need good pronunciation skills in able to be understood. Has an impact on listening. I don't know if you've ever considered the fact that pronunciation is essential in order to be able to listen effectively. Also has an impact on our reading. Ever considered this? Why? Why would it have an impact on reading? Well, we're going to explore that as we move through the slides. And then finally, what's missing? What's coming next? Has an impact on, of course, it would be our writing. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I can't read Chinese, but you got the answer correct. Thank you so much. Yeah, it is, isn't it, Saren? Yeah, when somebody does have pronunciation problems, it can be very, very noticeable. And that has an impact, obviously, on speaking. And we'll look at that. If you feel like your pronunciation isn't very clear, it may make you lose confidence to actually then try and speak. And that's what we want to avoid, right? So let's have a look now at the first area of speaking. So pronunciation has an impact on speaking. So how does it? So the first thing, I think, which is obvious, it reduces our ability to be understood. Okay, so if we are practicing our English outside the classroom or inside the classroom, and we're saying things incorrectly and people can't understand, this is a huge problem, right? It really does stop communication. I've seen this when I live in Thailand. My context is Thailand. I've been here for over 20 years, and I'm still learning Thai. And my pronunciation, I would agree with a lot of people, isn't fantastic. And sometimes it's a real challenge for me because I can't even understand the context or even use context because my pronunciation isn't very clear. People are not able to pick up on that. Now, if you're a teacher, generally, you will have a high level of competence in understanding what your students are trying to say. And you will probably have what's called a high tolerance of error. Now, this is good in some ways, but it's bad in other ways, because you might be letting your students get away with pronunciation errors that outside of the classroom, other people may not be able to understand. So we need to really focus on this accuracy with our students to make them be understood and give them confidence. So if they can't pronounce words correctly, if they're constantly being corrected or they're having problems with communication, then this is obviously an issue. Their confidence goes down. What happens when your confidence goes down? You're less likely to then try and speak in the target language, right? Here are some examples. Vegetable is vegetable, or other ways that the stress might be wrong in the world. Comfortable is a very common error instead of comfortable. Iceland instead of island. Wednesday is always a tricky one, isn't it? And swore. These are very common pronunciation errors that, if identified and do cause breakdown, will stop our learners from wanting to speak. I have a person who's very close to me who's Thai, and they have a word that they use incorrectly, but I think it's so cute and so lovely that they changed the word electricity into electric city. And I never correct them because I just love it. I think it's so, so cute. So I never bother with that. There's no point in correcting it. It always makes me smile. Anyway, pronunciation can affect grammar. Now, when I think about this, I think about my context again in Thailand. Third person singular, for example. I go, you go, he goes, right? So we might get our students saying he go. Now, is this a pronunciation error or is it a grammatical error? As teachers, we're usually able to find out. We can do a few quick exercises to check whether it's pronunciation or grammar, right? But it does have an effect. I think this is where we, as teachers, as human teachers, are really going to be strong at finding out whether students are making a mistake because they don't know the grammar, or is it because their pronunciation is wrong, or are they just tired? Why did they make that mistake? So these are things that we as humans can help out with. But I would argue that the solution is definitely targeted pronunciation support. We need to do more work in the classroom on this. So that's the impact on speaking. There's more impact, and I'd hopefully after today's session, you'll go away and find out as well some more. Let's look at now at listening. What's the impact of pronunciation on listening? So if we have poor pronunciation, we might not be able to hear individual sounds. So the sounds here, we've got ship and sheep, it and it and e. Sorry, it's nearly the end of the day. So ship and sheep. Now this is a very famous pronunciation book that I used back in the day. Also tree and three is another. There's lots and lots of these, what we call minimal pairs or discrete sounds that can cause issues for our students when they're trying to listen to them. Stress, intonation hinders meaning. So if our voice goes up at the end of a sentence, we usually means we're trying to ask a question. But if we get that wrong and we're asking a question when we're actually asking for confirmation, it can cause issues. Also, if we're doing it the same way, if we're asking a question and we mean we just want confirmation. So this kind of thing with intonation. Here we've got record and record, two different meanings of the same word. The difference is the stress on that word. And there's ways that we can practice this, and I'll show you in a moment how we can do that. We have issues of listening. Listening is a difficult skill. It's probably the one thing that I struggle with most when I'm learning, when I'm studying Thai, when I'm learning my second language. Listening is a real challenge, right? So I'm having to listen. I'm having to think about the vocabulary. I'm thinking about the context that someone's talking in, and then I'm listening for individual sounds to try and, identify what that vocabulary is. It's a massive cognitive task. And if we're then putting all this pronunciation in there as well, it becomes a very difficult challenge for us and can cause us to lose the meaning of certain conversations. Another example, I guess, of the stress and the intonation. I'm just thinking about this, especially with numbers like 30 and 13, things like that. You can, if you ask someone how old you are and they say I'm 13, and they wanted to say 30, it becomes, there's automatically a like, what? Or how old's your son? He's 30. You're like, he doesn't look 30. He looks about 14. And then you can guess it obviously from context, but it's still, we want to be accurate. And again, I would argue that it's not enough just to practice listening. We actually need to focus on the specific pronunciation errors, or areas, I should say. Next one, reading. How does it impact reading? Now, I have this word here, sub-vocalization. Thank you, Amir. Yes, connected speech. Yes, definitely, yeah. Poor pronunciation disrupts sub-vocalization. What does that mean? I hear you asking, you're probably Googling away now. But sub-vocalization is that voice in your head, in your brain, that when you're reading, it kind of silently says the words to the brain, to yourself. And it's like what we can call our internal speech. It helps us to remember this internal speech, helps us to understand what we're reading. And if our pronunciation is not good, it can halt that process. And that then leads to this lack of storing of the vocabulary, or the sentences or the chunks that you're actually learning. If you have poor pronunciation and you're reading, it often means that you have to reread texts, which is not very efficient. Okay, so if you're having to reread something twice, you have to do it obviously 2 times, then it's going to take more time for you to then get that understanding. And again, extra reading is not going to help unless you actually focus on fixing the problems themselves. All right, so pronunciation exercises are going to help with the reading, with the listening, and obviously with the speaking. Let's have a look now how they're going to also help with our writing. So, if we have poor pronunciation and we're writing something down, it can really affect the way that we write that down. It can cause us to make spelling mistakes. It can cause us to just make up new words, or it can cause us to choose words that are incorrect. If you have a look here, when we see these all the time, they're quite amusing. And I definitely don't want people to feel like I'm criticizing here, because when anybody is trying to use a second language, it means that they're already likely fluent in one language and are getting there in a second language. Never like criticize people who are doing their best on menus and things like this. But it is quite funny, and I think it's nice to recognize. So here we have a menu, and it says that there's a Caesar salad and a chicken drumstick. What do you think it should be instead of Caesar salad? So Caesar is usually something pretty negative, right? Yeah, William, yeah. It's a Caesar salad, a lovely salad, maybe with a boiled egg, some little bits of bacon, some lettuce, and a nice Caesar sauce. I do like a Caesar salad. And then the chicken drumstick is obviously a chicken. Help me out. A chicken drumstick, yes, of course. And again, I do like a chicken drumstick. So here we've got a classic example of somebody hearing something and writing another word that sounds similar, but is not the same. Derm, I don't believe, is a word. Seizure is a word. So we've got an invented spelling and also a mispronunciation of a word. You can see these everywhere. Anybody who's been to Thailand in a tourist area may order crab fried rice, and it looks something different as well. Something that you definitely don't want to eat, but I'm not that rude that I would say it on a webinar today. We can have a problem when the vocal length. So we talked earlier about ship and sheep. Here we've got another example of that in writing. So we might be asking students to write about their routines. Here we've got every night I slip at 10 p.m. to be fresh for school. Well, obviously we don't want to be slipping before we go to bed. And I go to bed at 10 p.m. Hopefully you go to good before you then go to sleep. Okay, this is how you might correct it, right? So you might correct it by pointing it out and seeing the humor in mistakes and noticing that mistakes are natural. Everybody makes them, and it's fine too. But obviously pointing these out so that we can help our students become much more fluent and much more accurate with their speaking, listening, reading, and writing. All right, now I'm going to move on. As I said earlier, we need specific practice. So I'm going to move on, and I want to point this out. Now, to become a good pronunciation teacher, any teacher, you need to focus on your students' needs. What is important to your learners, all right? What do you need to teach your students? Now, this can be identified by their first language. So you as teachers, generally, I would imagine a lot of you have learned English yourself. might even be the same nationality as your students. So you're in a brilliant position to be able to help them with any problems, whether it be grammar, vocab, and pronunciation, to help them navigate the issues that they're likely to have. For me, when I came to Thailand and realized I was going to stay here, I did lots of research on Thai pronunciation errors. And that's what I'm going to look at today. However, researching for this webinar, it would seem that some of the errors are not just limited to Thailand, but actually across the whole continent of Asia and beyond. So hopefully the 3 things that I'm going to focus on today will still be useful for you in your classrooms as well. But I really need you to think about your learners. That's my point for this next part. It's not no point just looking in the book and looking at maybe this pronunciation in the book. You need to still see if that is relevant to your learners. If they're already good at that area of pronunciation, then you don't need to teach it. Teach them something that they need work on. So in Thailand, the country that is my context, we have lots of problems with minimal pairs. So consonant sounds that sound the same. All right, so we've got some examples here. And we also have issues with what we call consonant clusters. So we've got things like school becomes sakul. All right, these are very common errors that we see. They don't really, with the consonant clusters, I wouldn't say there's a massive problem in terms of being understood, but it does make you sound like you're, that you haven't really studied English that well, and that you're not accurate, and you would lose marks in an exam if you were to speak like that. So we're going to look at how we can practice this area. Another aspect is short versus long vowel distinction. So I mentioned ship or sheep, e or it, bit or beat. They may sound the same, all right? Good, Amir, thank you for letting me know. This is great. I'm happy to know that. And bear that in mind. Amir's just given an example for Vietnam. I'm going to ask you in a minute to give me some examples of your context and the problems that your learners have. So get ready in the chat to add your other ideas. And then we have word stress. So Thai is syllable timed, English is stress timed, and we often stress all the syllables equally. And we might have things like this as well. This is a stolen word, right? Well, not stolen word, a borrowed word. Stolen implies a negativity. Computer is very common here in Thailand instead of computer. Computer is, yeah, it's kind of a bit of a joke now, but it is still there. So my question for you, have a think in the chat while I have a little drink of water or of some orange juice. Here in Japan, the and the, as well, as they do not have them here. Yes, often the case where if a language doesn't actually have that, then they are going to have problems with it, right? Anything else that you'd like to add? Ending with T and D for sure. Yeah, word endings in Thailand as well. We have words don't end in L, they change it to an N. So instead, we have a department stores here called Central. They get called Centran. Th is difficult for Vietnamese students. Yeah, difficult here too. Syllables. So it's always, okay, plural, yeah. And again, DM Win, is that a grammar mistake or is it a pronunciation mistake? You will know from your learners, right? Yeah, lots of them coming in. Snack. Yeah, these are good, aren't they? Monotone delivery. Yes, I've got my my robot coming up in a moment. Sopping. Cool. This is really nice to see that you're sharing these ideas. Feel free to share them as we go on. Let everybody know so that anybody who's teaching in these contexts will This is great, dear. Thank you. Yeah, and Amithis, Sarah, and thank you so much, everybody, for popping these in. It's really useful for us to see. Vals and into Mary, problem was speaking or teaching English. Cool. All right. So let me give you now some ideas, some techniques that I've used in my teaching career, my long teaching career. And I'm going to share these with you. And I'd like you to think about how you can use them in your classroom, how they can be adapted. Remember, one of the challenges was the large classes, and hopefully I've tried to take that into account. There's one activity that you might go, oh, I could never do that because the class is too big. Well, I will explain that in a moment, how you can do it, even with large classes and students who are sitting down. So the first one I'm going to look at is this perennial problem of consonant clusters. I'm having problems pronouncing my words today as well. And I think that's important, isn't it? To let your students know that pronunciation is a difficult thing. And even those who have mastered English, I'm still yet to master English. Those who have mastered English will still make slips when they're feeling a bit tired at the end of the day. And that's all right. It's okay to do that. I'm going to share an example from one of our primary books. Okay, so here you can see in our primary book, they've got the word, they've got these consonant clusters, and they're using this as phonics, right? Now, phonics and pronunciation are very, very closely matched together. And usually in primary materials, you will see pronunciation and phonics are kind of, there's no distinction. Obviously, phonics is recognizing, decoding, being able to read the words. Pronunciation is being then to be able to say the words. But for all intents and purposes, this is a pronunciation lesson, practicing speaking, practicing their listening skills for pronunciation as well. Now, I've said here it's a primary book. You can do this with any level of learner. I should say any age of learner. Maybe as you become more advanced, your pronunciation is going to be sort of more nuanced. And I think you're probably able to maybe even as you go through like B2 plus C2, C1 level, you're probably more able to find out yourself what work you need to do and start correcting your own pronunciation, rather than having to do remedial activities like this. But I think this is fine. This activity is good for primary learners and adapted for secondary learners as well. So we're going to do robot or real. There he is. Robot or real. So the idea for this is, oh, and don't worry, all of these activities I'm going to give to you at the end. Like I said, I'll give you a handout with the how to use them and why they're good. So if we look at these pictures, you see I've taken out the words. Now, what we're going to do as a teacher is we're going to get our students to make these cards, all right? Already you're saying, there's 40 students in my class. It's going to take a lesson for them all to make these cards, all right? So if you don't have the resources to make the cards, you can have students stand up if it's real and sit down if it's a robot, all right? So we're listening at the moment for doing pronunciation for listening. So I'm going to say these words. So school, students would say real or robot, school. Of course, they would put up real. Snake is a robot. So your students would be doing this. They'd be putting their hands up, they'd be standing up, depending on your classroom situation, or they'd be putting up their robots and their reals. Up to them how they want to do it. You could also do a bit of TPR. You could get them to act like robots. I am a robot, like that, if you wanted to. Do something fun like that. Get them standing up if you've got the room. So you go around, say these words: slide, square, spider, scooter, skateboard, and share. Share's a bit of a different one, but it's okay. We can keep that in. So what we've done, we're doing this practicing pronunciation. Then we get our students to do it together, maybe in small groups. One of them's the teacher. They would say the words and people would then put their robot or reel up. So in small groups. What's good about this is that if you're doing it in small groups with students, is a student might be saying, or might say the word spider. They might want to say it as a real person, spider, but they might not have that. They may not have the ability to do that, and they might be wanting to do that and stick a vowel in there and say spider, right? If they do, they're going to get immediate feedback from their friends without actually feeling bad about it, because nobody knows whether they've decided it's a real or a robot. Only they know, right? So they're going to know that they're going to need some work on that if they get that immediate feedback. Very unthreatening way to get feedback to your learners about their pronunciation. What else you could do with this is just get students to shout out. So you can basically get them to shout out the number that you're going to say. Now, if you say it as a robot, then they don't say the number. If you say it as a real person, then they do say the number. So you could have all the students stood up and you could say, okay, scooter. And the students will then either put their hand up or say number 6. And if they say number 6, they stay standing up. If you then said snake, which has an intrusive vowel, and a student shouts out number 2, then they have to sit down because you're a robot. So they're out of the game. And it's the last person or the last people that are standing win the game. So this is another way that you can practice their pronunciation for listening as well. Another way to do this. Okay, so here's the real or robot. Again, I'll share this with you at the end. But why it works is because it shows that difference between the two. And it's a fun guessing game for students to do. Anything that's fun with pronunciation is going to be effective. We can do Magic Eyes. Magic Eyes is a really great activity for drilling vocabulary. So what you would do is drill this, the vocabulary that we can see here. I've taken out share for this one. School, snake, slide, square, scooter, spider, skateboard. Drill this to your learners. They say it back to you. You monitor. Make sure that they're saying it correctly. And then you take away one of the words and you drill it again. So school, snake, slide, square, scooter, spider, and what was missing? Students would shout out skateboard. If they shout out skateboard, then you go back and you drill it again. Okay. So if there's an intrusive vowel, if there's epiphonesis in there, then you go back. But if they say it correctly, you cover it up. Now you move on again, drill it again. School, snake, slide, square, scooter. Students shout out spider, skateboard. Then you can keep going and so on. But every time they make a mistake, you then go back and you take it away. Now you can do this with flashcards on the board. All you need to do is turn them over. You can do this if you have a computer like me and project it into a PowerPoint file like this. It's very easy to, very simple to do. But any way that you're going to do it, you can have bits of paper that you can then put over as well if you don't want to turn them around, if they can see them. Lots of ways that you can do this. But what it's great for is when they get to the end, they're having to drill all this vocabulary. They're having to say it correctly. And they're also having to remember what this word is. So when they get to the end, they realize they can say these 7 words without any flashcards, without any help from the teacher. They can remember them, gives them a real good sense of progress that you're trying to achieve in the classroom. So here are the instructions. I will share them with you. Don't you worry about that. Way it works, as I said, again, gives them that awareness of the difference. Also practices them actually saying the words, pronouncing the words correctly. Keeps them engaged because it's really good fun. And it provides that sense of progress. Whoa, I can say 7 of these words without any pictures. I've got a really good memory and I can say them correctly. Very, very nice way to drill vocabulary. So let's have a look now at the short and long vowel distinctions. And for this, I'm going to look at a secondary product called Optimized Stars. Now, Optimized Stars focuses a lot on exam practice. Exam practice is really important when we get into teenagers, studying that teenagers are doing. They're moving towards these high stakes exams, and they really need to make sure that all the skills are taken care of, vocab, grammar, and their pronunciation. So I did a little look. If we look at the IELTS that students might be doing later on, you can see that pronunciation is 25% of the speaking part of IELTS, so it carries a lot of weight. If we look at the key and the key and the preliminary test, again, speaking is 25%. Also, very important with the key and preliminary tests are that they're having to speak to another person. So that pronunciation for listening is very, very important. So while the IELTS has an examiner, of course, there's obviously some pronunciation for listening there, but this is a real conversation that they're having with each other. So it's very important that their pronunciation is up to speed. So it's very important that we teach it. So for the discrete sounds, those very small sounds, I'm going to show you a really cool activity that I learned back in the day and still use today. Now, the actual technology has moved on a little bit now, hasn't it? Of course. And but this still holds up as an activity that I think is really fun in the classroom. And I'm going to do it with you. You have to be you have to listen very carefully to what I'm going to tell you now. So how we do it is we get our students to make like the front of a phone. So this one here, they would have something like this, but all the numbers and all the letters are blanked out. And it could look, for teaching practice, something like this, right? And then what I get the students to do is to, excuse me, is to write in the numbers that they would see on a standard telephone. All right, so usually number 1 is up in the corner, number 9 in the bottom, etc. All right, so they've got the numbers here. And now what I'm going to get them to do, I'm going to dictate to them some words. All right, so I would dictate to them, number 1 is bit, number 2 is bat, etc. Number 3, bet. Number 4, boat. 5, boot. 6, but. I have to be careful with number 6 because actually my butt is a not an not a schwa, it's an where I come from in the north of England. But for my students, I'm probably going to use the schwa, give them a little bit more help. Then we've got bait, beat, Bert, and Bart. Now, what we're going to do, also, you can actually give them, if you wanted to, the phonetic script. But I tend not to focus on that too much now because we've got such good online dictionaries and things like this to help them with that. So I don't really teach a phonetic script too much nowadays. So let's have a practice. So I'm going to give you my telephone number, but I'm not going to say the numbers. I'm going to say the words. And you have to write down my telephone number in the chat. All right? Are you ready? I will start. My telephone number is Bart, but, boat, bit, beat, bet, beat, bat, Bert, and bit. All right, so what's my telephone number? Write it in the chat. Oh, it's coming, come quick. Oh, very close, Josephine. Super, very close too. Amir's got it. Fantastic. Very well done, Amir. Now, if I'm in the classroom with my students, what I might do is get them to then call me. All right. So not actually tell me the number, but call the number. And if my phone rings, sorry, Zafar, I was a bit fast, wasn't I? But you get the idea, and I don't want to go on for too long. But if my phone rings, I can tell who it's from, and I can shout out their name, and we get a nice reward. Then you put the students into pairs, and they share telephone numbers. All right. When they share their telephone number, they can call each other. Phones will be ringing. It's a good, fun activity, and it practices those discrete sounds. And actually, back in the day, this shows how old I am. We used to have the newspapers that would have classified, well, newspapers, there you go. And in those newspapers, you would have classified ads that would have telephone numbers in them. So what we would do then is pick a telephone number from the classified ad and dictate that. And students then had to skim read through the classified ad and try and find out what business I was looking at, or I was dictating the number for, and shout out the business, and then they get a point for their team. So this is another way that you could do it. If you could find any old classified ads. Again, the technology, it's not today's tech, but it does work in terms of today's pronunciation. So hopefully you'll go away and use that. And actually, I created a resource for the British Council. I've got a link in the PDF that I'm going to share with you that you can access that. If you type in telephone number pronunciation British Council into Google, you will find this resource that I created a long time ago. So here's how you do it, and here's why it works. And again, listening for pronunciation, but also speaking for pronunciation as well. It's really nice activity for that. And then building these pronunciation skills, you're helping with their reading and their listening, their reading and writing as well. Okay, let's have a look at word stress now. This is a really cool activity that I've done before. I love this activity. It works with small classes, works with large classes. Takes a little bit of classroom management, but you can actually do it. I've done this with a class, well, with a group of about 200 teachers actually, and it worked okay. So there's no reason why you can't do it in your classrooms. So I've taken this from, or this idea from a really cool book called Skillful. This is for young adults and adult learners. It's got help students with academic English, and the theme of this is about, the theme of the units are very nice broad themes for our students to study. This one is about culture. As you can see, there's people eating in the river. So we're learning about new countries, different cultures. So I thought this is a good way to bring up pronunciation that you can use as a warm-up activity that can actually maybe even activate schemata, find out students' prior knowledge of the theme of something rather than the actual mechanics of pronunciation. Let me show you how it works. Oh yeah, and there's specific pronunciation for speaking activities within this book and pronunciation for listening activities. You can see this is all about word stress, and that's what we're going to look at now. So this activity is called pronunciation whispers. So we all know the game of telephone or whispers, where you say something quietly and you have to pass it along the group, and then hopefully at the end the student will write down what you actually said to the student at the start, right? So they're practicing their pronunciation through speaking as it goes through. Now this is a variation on that. So I'm the teacher. As you can see, this is me here at the front, at the back of the class, and I'm going to say to the students a word. I'm going to whisper it, okay? So I'm going to say to them the country of Japan. Japan. And these two fellas, or these two students, they then turn around and they say Japan to the student here. Okay? They whisper it, must whisper. You can't shout it out. If you shout it out, you lose a point. And then they pass it down until we get to the student at the front of the class. And they now have to write the word down. Okay? But the difference is they have to choose the correct stress pattern. All right? So I said the word Japan. So will he be writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6? First one to write the number in the chat is the best. Japan. Ami is in there straight away. Rainier, very good. Very difficult to beat Ami. Very fast on the keyboard. And they would then write the word Japan next to it. Okay. Now, this person will then walk to the back if you can. If you can't, never mind. You can keep him there or her there. But ideally, they walk to the back and then move down, okay, if they're standing up. If you're in a classroom where they can't move, they're sat at their tables, then just keep it like that. What you could also do is then get them to turn around. You go to the front of the class and dictate to the back and then come forward that way. You could do it like that. Let me just give you another test. I'll give you another country. You tell me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Let's go for Australia. Australia. What number is that? Excellent, Minfan. Perfect. Australia. Australia. And what about China? Yeah, China's number 2. Okay, good job. All right, so you can do this with your learners. You can pick countries, you can pick any vocabulary that you're teaching at the moment. It's very, very adaptable, very fun, and you get some nice, nice evidence of the kind of stress patterns students might be struggling with by checking it at the end. So make sure you have a good go at this. And like I said, don't be hindered by large classrooms. You can do this with large classrooms. Why it works, builds awareness of those stress patterns. As I said, yeah, it's good fun. Practices listening and speaking. Now, another area I mentioned earlier is stress in words. And this is the last activity that I'm going to show you. It's all about stressing a word in a sentence and kind of changing the meaning a little bit. I'm sure you've seen some variations of this. But we've got this word, this sentence, you stole my sandwich. Okay, so in Thai they might say, you stole my sandwich, if I put this up there, right? Stress timed syllable, yeah, and with tongues. So you might want to introduce this and say like, you stole my sandwich, not somebody else. You stole my sandwich. You stole my sandwich. You didn't borrow it. You stole it. You stole my sandwich, not her sandwich, my sandwich. And you stole my sandwich, not my crisps, not my chocolate bar, my sandwich. Okay, so here you can see the difference in stress has a different nuance in the meaning of what the person is trying to say. You can then have a sentence like this that you've made up, work in pairs, and now the person responds. And they would say, I didn't steal your sandwich. Amir did. I didn't steal your sandwich. I borrowed it. I didn't steal your sandwich. I stole Super's sandwich. And I didn't steal your sandwich. I stole your chocolate bar. All right, so you get the idea that one of them will say a sentence and then there's a response and you can practice. Students can make up their own sentences and have lots of fun with this nuanced meaning of word stress. And again, It's a really cool example of how you can change meaning just by changing your stress. Whoops. Practice both speaking and listening for pronunciation. All right, time's gone fast. I've got a few minutes. If anybody's got any questions, if you want to stick around, if you've got anything you'd like to ask, let me know. And Super as well, she's going to jump on again. I will share now with you the activities that I presented. Just let me find those and find out where I can put them. Okay,
Yes,
I need to
please,
open
though.
the
Thank you
chat.
very much. It's really
There we
fun
go.
games.
Okay, so you've all got the pronunciation activities now in the chat. So yeah, you can go ahead and use those immediately, hopefully.
Yes, we can see it. Yeah, please make sure you download the pronunciation activities in the chat. And actually, the last like activity reminds me of a very popular game I watched in some reality television shows. People will play the game like they say the sentence with different stress in different words really fast to compete like who's the winner. So it's like I I stole your sandwich. I stole your sandwich. I stole your sandwich. I stole your sandwich. So it's like putting all these
Ah,
sentences together and competing with each other. So maybe at the end of the class or at the end of the activity, you can add one more round to put students in groups and having them to say the sentences with these stresses to help them to find that kind of rhythm.
yeah, you could put them in like it depending on the size of your class. And like, I stole your sandwich. There's um there's four, right? You can put them into groups of four and then have like, yeah, one, and then it's like number one then stresses the word I stole your sandwich,
Yeah.
and then number two, I stole your sandwich. Yeah, like, yeah, you could do it like that as well. That's fun. I like that.
Yeah, it just gets the vibes activated, and the students will get really excited about shouting out the right stress. And yeah, it's quite fun to watch these games as well. When I was an audience, when it always creates very fun moments because we always mistaken the stress at some
Yeah,
point, and then yeah, people will get just burst into laughters and having fun as well.
I think, yeah, and that's it. I think anytime you're doing like a group activity when it comes to pronunciation, if you can make it fun and make it like, make sure that your students are making mistakes, right? And then correcting them as a whole group and making them realize that, yeah, it's a safe space. You can make mistakes if you want to. Yeah, there's no shame in that. If you're not making mistakes, you're probably not trying hard enough, right? So yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and I think there's
Amia's
another,
got
yeah,
another activity Amir says, another activity I've done with emphatic stress is to have one student say a sentence with one word stressed, and others should write it with the stress word all encompassed. Yeah, very nice as well. That's a really nice activity. I remember another one is contrastive stress. I think this is from a book that I used back in the day called Pronunciation Games by Mark Hancock. And that was really good because what it did was students would say a sentence that had a mistake in it, right? So they'd say things like, maybe like I would say something like, it was back in the day, so I'm trying to think of a sentence. I might say like Taylor Swift, right? Let's think of something. So Taylor Swift comes from Canada. And then so a student would put their hand up and go, oh, no, 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 no. Taylor Swift comes from America, right? And stress where the mistake is. So you might then say, like, today is a lovely day. I really like Wednesdays. And say, no, 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 no. Today's a lovely day. You really like Thursdays. And then the stress that there's a mistake on it. And that's kind of a nice fun activity as well. And they can make up their own mistakes.
Yes, and it's a very good process of noticing and yeah, getting aware of what's the pronunciation like focus is. Yeah, it's all very, very practical and very fun, all the activities Dale has introduced today. And also, I think someone mentioned you can't download it or save it, but we will share the link of this file in the thank you email as well, I think. Yeah, so don't worry if you can't save it right now,
Put
but
it back in again.
I have saved it and maybe have a try again.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and before I let everybody else go, I just want to, yeah, let you know that what's coming up very soon. So, we are going to have 2 more sessions next week. So I will be there next Tuesday to give you like a lesson plan, walk you through a lesson plan with fun exam-based like speaking practice for learners. Yeah, so stay tuned. And if you haven't registered, please scan the QR code or use the link. I think Dolores will share it very soon in the chat. Yeah. It's going to be on Tuesday and it's more exam focused about the speaking test. And for next Thursday, we will have another Voices in ELT Management. So if you're interested in build and develop your leadership like skills in ELT industry, so we will have Kate and Dell to be there to give you a quick talk to give you some ideas about how you can explore your career path. And lastly, yeah, follow us on Facebook and WeChat and stay tuned for the
And
upcoming.
please complete the survey as well.
Oh, yeah. So the survey, I will show you the link of the survey again here. Yes, this is the survey for Dell's session today. If you have any feedback about today's session, or if you want to hear something else, you can all, yeah, put it down and submit it, and we will take care of the results and put them into, yeah, the future plans. So thank you very much again for your time, and I will see you next Tuesday.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
That was great. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.